when you're up against all this negative media that is constantly pushed, especially in the Western world,
Yeah.
the only way really to beat that misperception is to go to the place
Yeah.
and see for yourself rather than, just go off of the word of something in the media, especially now and today with we see how media coverage can be so biased.
Hi, Janine. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited you made it.
Hi, Julia. Thank you so much for having me on. And yes, finally, I'm so glad we got to finally do this together.
I'm so glad to have you. So, where are you joining from today?
I'm joining from the Dead Sea, the beautiful Dead Sea. We just had sunset about 15 minutes ago. As you can see in the
Hmm.
back there, it's still kind of pretty. But yeah, I've been in Jordan for about almost 10 days now. Are feeling very grateful to be here.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Throughout this whole time, I've just been wanting to be back there so much. As you know, I also have a lot of friends in Jordan, and just been wanting to be with them.
So actually, some of the folks I have on the trip with me are repeat visitors. Actually, some are repeat, some are new, first
Mm-hmm.
timers.
Mm-hmm.
And the repeat ones, it was very cool because when I, pitched it to them, one, it was last minute, but also, it's the winter time. It was right after the holidays, and they all jumped at it. So,
Mm-hmm.
and one, two of them were here just 6 months ago.
That's the thing with Jordan, isn't it? That you tend to get repeat visitors. You tend to fall in love with the country, and I've certainly been there. I don't know how many times now, maybe 20. I haven't really counted, like a lot of times.
Same here.
And
I've lost count myself.
yeah, right. It's a really special place, and we're gonna get into that in the podcast today. But first, I read somewhere that you've been in the travel and tourism industry for over 15 years.
Yes,
Wow,
that's
that
right.
is incredible.
Yes.
How did you first get into working in the travel space?
So I got into the travel space quite very randomly, actually. It wasn't something I was seeking, but it was always an industry that I was interested in, being from Jamaica, and tourism is a big part of Jamaica.
Mhm.
And so I was familiar with I wasn't really familiar with it from employment perspective, but just,
Mhm.
from interest. And a friend of mine was interning with our office,
Mm.
and I had just graduated from university, and she had recommended, that she was leaving, and they may have a position. Anyhow, she put me in touch with them. I went on a quick interview, and
Mhm.
I started volunteering in October of 2006, and then in March of 2007 I was taken on my first press trip to Jordan with my manager at the time, and for a training, and they decided to hire me full time. And my first trip to Jordan was March of 2007, and so as you can see, it's been 17 years. So I think
Wow.
that speaks volumes in of itself.
Absolutely. It absolutely does. So you must have seen so much over the years, and you must know the country so well by now. That's really incredible to go into it that deeply. But if you remember that, like that first experience of traveling to Jordan, what are some things that perhaps surprised you? Especially at that
The
time, because I
first,
think Jordan wasn't really that known outside as it is now. Like you guys have done an amazing job over the past
thank
however
you.
many years, because I think back then very few people had an idea of what the country is.
Correct.
So yeah.
I would agree. I would agree with you. I've definitely seen the growth of interest and the growth in travel. over the years. The first thing that surprised me of Jordan was the people, right? I was 20, so I think 25 or something like that, fresh out of college, had no relations or any kind of interaction with anybody from the Middle East at that time. I was just an island girl from Jamaica who was, living in the US going to college. So,
Mhm.
anyways, went on my first trip there. So I didn't really have any perceptions of it other than what I was seeing in the news at the time because of it. This was after 9/11.
Mhm.
So that's the most of what I knew of the area, of the region. So when I was going for my first time, because I was working with the people I was working with were Jordanian. And so I didn't really have go in with any fears per se, but I really
Mhm.
didn't know what I was walking into. And then I had people around me asking questions, like,
Mhm.
the Middle East, be careful.
Yeah.
So, okay. So ended up going, and it was what was most overwhelming was the hospitality, just
Mhm.
how warm the people were, how friendly they were, how inviting. And it at first made me uncomfortable because I was
Mhm.
like, why are people so nice? Like,
Mhm.
do they want me to buy something? Because that's kind of what I'm used to in, visiting
Mhm.
other places sometimes. And sad to say, sometimes even in Jamaica, that
Right.
you can get that when a place has too much tourism. Sometimes it can get a little murky. So that was the first thing, just being overwhelmed by the warmth of the people, and
Mhm.
genuinely so. Just them wanting to be warm, very much interested in learning about where I'm from,
Mhm.
very, very much interested in welcoming visitors and showing them their beautiful country, and their
Mhm.
culture. That's the vibe I got everywhere I went. It didn't matter whether it was in the city, whether it was in the middle of nowhere, in the desert. And then the other thing that struck me, I think, was just how much I had in common with
Mhm.
people I was meeting, the tour guide, and surprisingly so, because yeah, I did walk in with some perceptions, but it was very
Right.
cool for me to unlearn them and unlearn them in the way I did because it was firsthand interacting with people from everywhere. Because working for Jordan allowed me to, meet the people that we would take these, guests that we would host
Mhm.
and interact with Bedouins, interact with the bus driver, everybody,
Yeah.
the waiters, the bellboys. And even to this day, 17 years later, there are bellboys in Petra that I met from when I first came here. Till today, they're still there and they see me and I get the warmest welcome back, always
Mhm.
good to see me. I get, they would be, if I want to buy something, they won't let me buy anything because I'm always coming there, So
Yeah.
it's like, you just have a family everywhere you go.
Mm. So you mentioned some perceptions that you had walking in. I think it's so prevalent, to be honest, and especially at that time, a couple of decades ago, because I remember the same thing. Right after 9/11, people from the Middle East in general were dealing with a lot of stereotypes, of misconceptions. And when I came to Jordan a decade after you did, in 2017 was the first time, I received so much feedback from people outside of Jordan who've never been there, asking me, "How are you going there alone? It is so dangerous." And I was so
I
shocked,
have never
honestly.
been
I was
there.
just so shocked, who've never been there. Yeah, exactly. But it saddens me, to be honest, to say that I'm part of the world that plays a role in that, because the media headlines have not been kind to that region for a long
And
time.
exactly. And that is part of my job, I guess you would say, is to help redirect that
Hmm.
stereotype or that misperception. and not just through our marketing work, but when we bring journalists, travel journalists in particular, to Jordan to show them what the destination has to offer, what the culture is, the people. It just like I was transformed when I first came to Jordan is the same way I see a transformation in everybody I have brought to Jordan
Hmm.
over the
Hmm.
years. And it's very, very cool to see that transformation. When you're up against all this negative media that is constantly pushed, especially in the Western world,
Yeah.
the only way really to beat that misperception is to go to the place
Yeah.
and see for yourself rather than, just go off of the word of something in the media, especially now and today with we see how media coverage can be so biased. So I
Hmm.
think the age of social media really put Jordan. I that at least what I noticed is the age of social media really put Jordan over the top in terms of creating that demand in people's interest and minds, because people were starting to see uh, more of Jordan as a result of social media, but from real people going to the country and having their own experiences, especially the rise in single female travelers, because Jordan has seen a real big increase in solo female travelers, and I think that in itself is a testament to the destination and how you know um, people should really perceive it just based on people's real experiences and not just off of what we are told in
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
in mainstream media rather.
I think what you said there is really important. And that's something that I really try to advocate for with all my work, actually, not just the podcast. That was actually the motivation for why I wanted to start bringing groups to Jordan. I ran several groups, and it was amazing. And some repeat travelers have come with me as well, because I also see the same thing happening. But one thing that you said that I just want to kind of point out here, that's so important for people to really cultivate the skill of mm, critical reading, critical review of what they're reading, critical review of headlines, and really going and seeing for themselves. That is, I found that's like the most powerful way to combat any stereotypes or any misconceptions. Is, it's so
Mhm.
easy to imagine some scary person on the other side of the world that wants to hurt you. It's so easy to imagine that when you're just sitting across the world, but then when you come down and sit with these people, and you, like you said, you see how alike you are, how just alike and
Correct.
human you are. It's just like you all of that kind of falls off. That shield that you have over your eyes falls off, and it's just such a powerful
Mhm.
experience.
And I think that that's travel in general, and that's why I believe travel is such an important part of one's education, and upbringing, if in my opinion. And so, and that's what Jordan did for me. Jordan was my introduction, or my job with Jordan was my introduction to the travel industry. To travel, I mean, I did travel just a little bit before because my family, I come from a family of travelers who live all over the world and like to travel.
So we just had a little bit of an interruption, everyone. My computer just crashed. The wonders of working with technology. Sometimes it's unpredictable. But we're back on with Janine. I'm glad to say that. And we were saying how over the years of traveling to Jordan, you had that powerful experience again and again of sitting down with people and really understanding how we are really all the same in a fundamental way. We're all the same. And there is no need for that stereotypical misconceptions and misunderstandings. And that's the power of travel that we're all after, I think.
Definitely. Yeah, I think what I was trying to say is that I believe travel should be a part of everybody's education because it's the only
Mm.
way to bridge that gap in understanding from, if you live in a certain environment and all you see and hear is one thing, but you've never experienced something else, the only way you're going to experience and break that cycle of whatever it is by branching out and, seeing for yourself different cultures, different things. And like I was saying, that happened for me on my first trip to Jordan, and that was my introduction to the travel world. And I think I was saying, even though I come from a family of travelers and from a family who lived all over the world, I did grow up in Jamaica, a small island, and so I was very limited to what that island was able to offer me, and then whatever I knew of the world was just through my family's travels,
Hmm.
which probably is what, you know, helped me have an open mind to
Mm.
even want to have volunteered with Jordan at the time, you
Yeah.
know. And so, and from I took that first trip, it I got the bug, the travel bug. I've been as part of the job, I travel to other places for conferences and events and so on, and it I find now no matter where I go, even though as a human being you always have a kind of you will always stereotype even sometimes when you're not intending to stereotype.
Hmm.
Having worked for Jordan in particular and traveling to Jordan, it has, I guess, matured me in a way where now I really try to go with an open mind to anywhere. And even when I'm exploring my own country, from
Hmm.
time to time, I now explore it with a different mindset than I would have had I not had this experience. I'd probably be a little more fearful of exploring the deeper parts of Jamaica just based on the news that you hear,
Yeah.
oh, it's too dangerous to go here or there, but really and truly it's just a community with everybody else. So,
I
yeah.
think what we're really missing a lot in the global conversation is nuance. We are missing so much nuance, and everything seems to be so black and white. I remember just recently having this conversation with someone who lives in San Francisco. And if you read the news about San Francisco, some apocalypse is happening there right now. But my friend
Hmm.
was like, it's not, we're still here, we're still living. And but those headlines, again, if you don't really go deeper than that, and if you don't talk to the actual people who are from there, then then you can develop just some really strange ideas about what's happening in that place. But I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the elephant in the room, which is the fact that right now, as we speak, and has been for 3 months now, there's been just incredible tragedy and death happening in Gaza,
Hmm. Yes.
Palestine, and over one third of Jordan's population is Palestinian, actually. And maybe this is something that people don't know, that Jordan is actually a multi diverse community. There's people living there from all kind of walks of lives. And I spoke a little
Hmm.
bit about this in my last episode, so you guys can check that out. But there is a Palestinian community, there is an Iraqi, there is Syrian, there is Cherkessian community that came a long time ago to Jordan. Actually, there's Armenian, there is just different populations there. But a big group of Jordan's population is Palestinian, and a lot of them came over after 1948. And it's just been incredibly hard for many of us who have friends who are Palestinian to be witnessing
Yes.
all of this. So, how I want to ask you, how is the mood in Jordan right now?
Like you said, based on everything you just said a while ago, naturally the mood is one of um, sadness, a feeling of helplessness, frustration, because we're all having to witness things that no humans should be witnessing. And yes, I too have grown close to my Jordanian friends here who are like family, and everybody is touched by it in some way, very close and personally. So, the mood is definitely also exacerbated by the fact that Jordan is also seeing a drop in their tourism and visitors, and tourism is a big part of Jordan's income.
Mhm.
So it's just hard all around. A year ago, probably we would be on the trip and you know going out in a man and enjoying the nightlife, but right now everything is on on pause because
Yeah,
nobody's in a celebratory mood by any means.
yeah. There's not much to celebrate at the moment. And,
Correct.
you know, how do you think someone, like you mentioned that travel has dipped, tourism has dipped, and the poor country of Jordan has seen that so many times over the years. It's been affected every time there is something happening, or yeah, the Arab Spring has affected it too. I remember back, several years ago, and the COVID pandemic, of course, has
Hmm.
affected tourism a lot in Jordan. And like
Correct.
you said, the country depends on tourism. Quite a few families derive their livelihood from tourism, especially outside of Amman. So
Correct.
it's a really difficult situation. So how would you say, like, what would you say to travelers right now, right? Because it's always a thing to consider. Should I go or not in a time like this, right? When
For
there is
sure.
tragedy happening right next door, and it feels like you said, the helplessness. It feels like there's not much you can do.
Correct.
Should you go? Should you go to Jordan, and should you be there right now?
I'm here right now, and it's because I strongly believe that by coming and supporting the economy here, Jordan is one of those countries that's also providing humanitarian aid, as well as Jordan has always been a land of refuge. I feel like by coming here, by bringing people here and showcasing them this beautiful culture, the beautiful people, the beauty that Jordan offers, because at one point this entire region was all one area,
Mhm.
one country. And so, I feel like traveling here, it's my way and our way of being able to do something positive by shedding the positives on the culture and the people that are constantly dehumanized or painted with one stroke of a brush and dehumanized, or this part of the world tends
Mhm.
to be, dehumanized. And so this is what travel is about. Travel is to show is to break that barrier that is put up by these conflicts and wars, because these are between governments, not the
Mhm.
people, right? and the people are the ones that end up suffering. And
Yes.
so tourism helps people, these people to feed their families and to help others as well who are in
Mhm.
need. And that's what I think the Jordanian and Bedouin culture is all about: welcoming people, feeding a visitor. If a visitor is passing by, they will welcome you in, they will feed you,
Mhm.
they will give you water to drink, even if they don't have much of their own. As
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you experienced that on your
Yeah.
own trips coming here as a single female traveler. So, that's why I feel like now is the time to come to Jordan, because aside from the fact that the situation is not in Jordan, or it's not on Jordan's borders, so there is it's like saying something is happening in California, but you don't want to go to DC because California is having problems. So again, it's big. I'm saying that because I've been coming here for 17 years, and like you said, we've seen many ups and downs. Jordan is,
Mhm.
they describe it as a quiet house in a noisy neighborhood. So we are not foreign to these unfortunate situations, but we hope that uh, our continued promotion of Jordan and the people here who are very similar to the people of this region
Yeah.
will continue to change minds, continue to inspire people to go beyond their fears and beyond what they see, and learn more just from their own, want to learn more,
Yeah.
and yeah, um, you know use travel as a force for good. Basically, that's what we believe. And so
Yeah.
that's why I would ask people to still consider Jordan now, for sure.
So there's a couple of points that you brought up there that I want to just zero in on because I think they're so important. One, I really love that you brought or you mentioned that word dehumanization because I think at at the root of it, that's the cause of all of this is dehumanization. When you don't see the other person in that region as another human being, just like you, that's when we start having the horrible situation in Gaza that we're having right now. Because and not only I'm not only saying that for people who are directly involved in causing all that harm, but I'm saying that for people back in the States too, who perhaps can sit back and say, well, this doesn't concern me, or I don't know enough, or I don't know, those scary people over there, they want to harm us. It's all part of that dehumanization process. And what we talked about earlier, the headlines that have been kind of pummeling Arabs for years now, that plays a huge part in it. And so I think that's why I also got into travel because somehow I felt that it helps you see how we're all the same underneath it all, and that is really
Correct.
powerful. And I want to believe in that notion. I want to continue believing in that notion because that is the world I want to live in, not the other world where we dehumanize each other
And
and
divide.
continue destructing everything, destroying
Hmm.
everything. So I'm really glad you brought this up because I think it needs to be said out loud in any way that this is what's happening. It's dehumanization of people.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
when you come and sit with them and drink tea with them and they feed you mansaf, you are not able to dehumanize them anymore. You are not.
Exactly.
And that
Exactly.
is the
Exactly.
power of it. So that's one point. The other point I also want to raise, and again, I've talked about this on the last episode, so you guys can hear this more. I have been just really disappointed and saddened by how silent the travel media community has been. Because we do talk about the fact that travel is a force for good, travel has this powerful way of connecting people. But when something like this is happening, we are silent, and I just want to commend you actually for coming on the podcast and talking about this, because I know it's not easy for multiple reasons, for various reasons, for a lot of people. But I also, what gives me a little bit of hope is that, you and I are not new to this. You've been in this since 2007 at least. I've been learning more about the region since 2017, when, by the way, I first went to the West Bank and saw with my own eyes what's happening there. And if you have ever an opportunity, this is to our people listening right now, if you ever have an opportunity to go and see, I'm not talking about Gaza right now, if you have an opportunity to go to the West Bank, go and see. You will be changed. For sure, you will be changed. You will see exactly what's happening there. And it's like you cannot unsee that. So you and I have been in this for a while. But if there's any hope that I can see in this moment right now, is that so many more people around the world are becoming more and more aware first, and also speaking out. And that is incredibly to see. That gives me hope in this very hopeless situation. So I know it's not easy to speak out, for multiple reasons for all of us, but I want to commend you and anyone who is doing that right now, because it's really important. We think it might not be important. We think, what does my voice matter right now? It does.
Right.
It really does, because one voice accumulates into an ocean of voices, and that is really important.
Correct. Exactly. And I mean, I commend you as well for definitely speaking up. And as you said, we've seen this over the years. We have a personal connection, and yeah, I'm a human first. I'm a human being first.
Yeah,
And I think we are all seeing humanitarian crisis, many humanitarian crises in front of
yeah,
us right now.
yeah,
And I think it's important for, if we want to preserve this world for our children and our children's children to see and learn about the world in which we bring them into. We have
yeah,
to preserve it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you brought us here actually to this space, because that was one of the points I wanted to make and I forgot, that how connected all these struggles are. How the dehumanization of Arabs is connected to dehumanization of Black people, to dehumanization of Asian people, to all of the dehumanizations around the world, and all of the challenges and all of the conflicts, how connected all of this are. Because again, once you start seeing another person as a human being, you cannot unsee that, and you cannot like reverse. You start seeing everybody as a human being just like you. And
Mhm.
so I think when you're traveling to the region, you're not only educating yourself on this region, you're educating yourself on all of the dynamics of our world and what's happening in the world. And that is just invaluable for anyone.
Because we're all interconnected, right? There are indigenous people from every land on that we inhabit on this planet,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad that we've seen from history. History doesn't lie, and we've seen from history just how many indigenous groups of people are dehumanized and their
Yeah.
land destroyed and lives destroyed.
It's we can do what we can do, right? We can do with the tools that we have. So your tool is bringing people to Jordan, and hoping that that will spark some change somewhere, somehow, in some minds. My tool is similar, is to talk about it and write about it and tell stories about it in hopes that it will change some minds somewhere, somehow, right? So we cannot
And
root.
even if we don't change their mind, if
Mm,
we even just open it up a little more
yeah,
to learn more,
yeah.
I feel like I've succeeded.
It's a great ad, because yeah, maybe you're not gonna completely transform and change somebody's mind, but you put a seed in there, and that's really
Mhm.
the important part, right? That you put a seed in there. So you've been traveling to Jordan and working in Jordan for 17 years, which again is just so incredible. What are some of the stories, or some of the people, who are some of the people that you've met over the years that really stay with you? You mentioned, people in Petra that that know you. You mentioned some Bedouin communities, but if you just like think of one person that you've known over the years and their story,
Mhm.
I'd love for you to share that with with our audience.
Well, I will say there is a woman that I worked with when I first started working with the tourism board. So I work for the North American office, and we have a head office in Amman, and she worked. That's how we met.
Hmm.
And so I've known her from 2007 when I first came. And she strikes out because she's like a sister to me now. Like, we're like sisters. And she's inspired me a lot because she's a very passionate human and advocate for local communities and helping these local communities to advance their skills in whatever they're skilled at. She's very passionate about helping them to develop the skills needed for them to start their own little enterprises and tourism businesses so that they can participate with it and get business from the wider
Mm,
tourism market. She's also inspired the work that I want to do beyond what I do in Jordan.
mm,
I want to bring her the same passion that she does here to, like, back home to Jamaica and so on. She's definitely one of those Jordanian women or Arab women that once you meet her, if you had any perception about Arab women, she would
shatter
tear up
that
all those
perception.
misperceptions, shatter all those misperceptions that you would have,
Yeah.
about the Middle East and how women are treated and so on and so forth. But these are the questions that I always get from family,
Mm,
from just visitors and promoting Jordan. But she's held many roles within the tourism sector. She's risen and herself through the industry. She's done a lot for her country, for these small communities. Actually, a lot of the guests that we take on trips and stuff, a lot of the experiences that she has helped create
mm,
are these experiences that a lot of tourists and visitors are now able to come and interact with locals, and it's increased the economic sustainability of these communities and these families, and you can just see it, when you go to these
mhm.
communities, how her passion for the community has really changed these families, in a positive way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say she's definitely one that has stood out, and she's always welcomed me, and her family has always welcomed me every time I've come to Jordan. I've seen different sides of Jordan because of her as well. Like when I would come, it would mostly be for work, but then she would take me out of the work mode, and I'll get to actually get a peek into real, Jordanian
Mhm.
regular life because I'd hang out with her at her home with her friends. We'd go out, experience the nightlife, real Amani way, just like I do when I'm in DC or,
Yeah,
yeah.
I love
So,
that.
yeah. So that's her. And then on the flip side, there are some Bedouins that we have worked with over the years, or I've worked with over the years, that I would say touched me in a way because Wadi Rum is my favorite. Well, I have many favorites, but Wadi Rum definitely speaks to me deeply.
Same, same, same.
It's a feeling, right, for me, and just the constant warmth of the welcome that I get every time I come. And, they would go out of their way to make sure that me and anybody that I bring are well taken care of. They're just such honest people, such
Mm,
giving people, like they would never just come around and not have something to give you either. It's like they're gonna give you food or tea or something. You can't go around and not feel well taken care of. And that always sticks with me because I always look forward to going to see them when I go to Jordan. Like Wadi Rum must always be on my stop
mm,
list at some point. Because it's just such a peaceful feeling I get when I'm there.
yeah.
Mm.
Oh, I can just relate to everything you're saying because for me it's the same, right? Wadi Ram is my favorite place in Jordan too, and my Bedouin friends there, and that feeling of warmth when you were saying it, I could feel it in my chest, honestly,
Hmm.
because it's really powerful, it's really strong. And I think most people when they come to Wadi Ram and they experience that, they just they have to come back. And I've also met a lot of people in Wadi Ram who've been there. It's their fifth or sixth visit back. They keep coming back for that feeling, I think,
Correct.
because in I don't know how your experience is in the sea, but for me, every time I come back to the States, I miss that because we don't live like that here.
At all.
We
And
live in our bubbles, and that hospitality, that outward, very pronounced hospitality, it's not here in this world, but it is there. And I don't know, for
mhm,
me at least, it is just such a warm and like affirming feeling. I miss it, so I keep coming back for it.
correct. I think it's this, like when I go to Wadi Ramar, it's made me actually think for a second that maybe I could give up everything and just move to the
Same.
desert
Oh my god, same,
and
same.
and just live the life of a nomad and not have, to worry about bills and news and just,
Yeah,
you live free, because they really are
yeah,
living free,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's the kind of there's a spiritual freedom I think you get in as a nomad in the desert, right?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna refer our audience to an episode we did just before we went on hiatus with Ahmad Maraya, who is my Bedouin friend who runs Rum Planet Camp in Wadi Rum. You guys can check it out in the feed. It's just a few episodes back, and we were talking about this with him too, because what I've observed over years of interacting with them is that, sure, they're busy, like, especially if they're running a camp, they're busy people. They have calls all the time. They're here. They're like, welcoming guests and all of that.
Hmm.
But there is a stillness underneath that. That is, I think, what you're talking about, that spiritual freedom. And you can see it, it's palpable. And I think that's also what we're kind of attracted to, because first of all, living in that grand setting of Wadi Rum, it's just so
Yes.
majestic, and it does something to your soul. It heals your soul somehow, I know.
Yes, it does.
And
It does.
I just think that if you guys listening, if you ever have a chance to come to Jordan, make sure you spend some time in Wadi Rum, because people often come there on a 4 hour jeep tour from
tour
Petra. They don't stay
and
overnight. You really need to stay overnight. Even a couple of days if you can,
couple
because
nights if you can.
yeah, because otherwise you're doing yourself a disservice. It's such a special experience to be there. But I want to come back to the first person you mentioned, the woman that you're working with and who is inspiring you. That is something that I see in Jordan as well. A lot of people that I know and a lot of my friends are these incredibly powerful, strong, and affectionate women who care about their community and who are building their community. And that is also so affirming for me to see, and also something that I always take back to my own life. Like you said, you want to bring it back to Jamaica and see what you can do there. Same for me. Like, it is so inspiring to see that, and to want to bring it back. And for me, a woman like that is Lama Khatib. She's a co-founder
Hmm.
of Al Barake Wheat. And I did a story
Hmm.
on Jordan's ancient bread making history recently. And in one of the upcoming episodes, I'm going to bring that story to the podcast. So you guys stay tuned. But Lama Khatib, she's like that too. And she is all about reviving the ancient wheat grains in Jordan. Because actually, the interesting history there that I learned just recently is that Jordan, majority of wheat in Jordan right now is white refined American wheat that's flooding the market there, and not just there, in actually a lot of countries around the world. So it kind of has to do with geopolitics, actually. But
Hmm.
Lama is working on bringing those ancient grains of wheat and strains of wheat back into everyday consumption and production, and she's quite successful at it. There's a lot of bakeries, a lot of restaurants that are now using, and there's a whole movement of reviving ancient foods in Jordan, which is, it deserves its
Correct.
own episode, because it's a lot of that's happening there as well. But
Yes,
Lama Khatib
yes,
is one such person for me. She's incredibly warm, affectionate, but also sharp and powerful and strong, and it's just such an incredible combination that, as a woman
yes.
myself, I want to inhabit that combination,
That.
you know.
Yes, correct. Yes, that's you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly how I feel as well.
Mm,
The woman I was talking about is Muna Haddad, the
mm,
owner of Baraka Destinations. The inspirational part about it is that what success looks like for her is when she can step away from those communities and they totally
mm,
function on their own,
mm.
which is what her mission is usually.
That,
Yeah.
oh, I can't wait to be back. I can't wait to be back in Jordan, and actually I'm going to be back there with you very soon,
Yes. Next
which
month.
I can't wait to see that again. So we're gonna start wrapping up here, and as we do, what would you say would be the biggest? What would you say be the biggest misconception that you want people to stop having about the Middle Eastern culture, about the region, about the people living and working in the region?
Mm, Well, first of all, I would like people to approach this region on a whole, and actually the world on a whole, like, there are humans that live there.
Mm,
There are human beings that live there first and foremost, families,
yeah.
mothers, fathers, grandparents, kids, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. The foundation of the Jordanian culture, I would say, is based on family,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Families are very strong in Arab culture on a whole,
Yeah.
very important, very close knit. They make lots of effort to get together on a weekly basis. And the ties are so strong, so much so that many families live within the same building. As they
Yeah.
get older and they get married, they just live on, on top of
Yeah.
each other, like in apartments above the parents.
Yeah.
And I think so. I would love, for people to first off, always travel with that kind of mindset of,
Mm.
wherever you go, you're going to somebody's home, you're going into somebody's life. When you're passing through these villages, you're passing through people's daily lives. So y- if you're going to go somewhere, you want to go with an open mind and see the people first. That's what I would like to see, you know,
Yeah.
and go
I love
deeper.
that.
Yeah, go deeper.
I love that. I love that. I think that's a beautiful note and a wish and a aspiration for us to close on, to not forget that wherever we travel, there are people there and families and brothers and sisters and mothers and daughters, like you said, and to always keep that in mind. And then I think that will help us all feel a little bit more connected and a little bit more human towards each other. So
Exactly.
we can hope and we can do our best with the tools that we have to continue delivering that message and that hope and that tool, right?
Definitely.
Janine, it's been a pleasure speaking to you today. Thank you so much. I know you're traveling right now. I know you're in Jordan on a very busy schedule, so I appreciate that you took the time to come and speak to us today. And
No,
I
it's
can't
a
wait to see
pleasure.
you in Jordan very soon.
Yes, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your program. And yeah, I look forward to more conversations and to seeing you in Jordan next month and sharing more of what we love about this beautiful culture, people, place.
Love that. Inshallah, inshallah, I'll see you soon.
Inshallah. All right, you take care. Thank you,
You too.
Yulia.
Thank you.